Welcome back to episode 92 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Troy. Father's Day here in the U.S. Happy Father's Day, Troy. You did the dad thing today, and we're at the baseball field again all day, huh?
Yeah, the big dad celebration. Go coach your son's baseball team. So 3 games today. We ended up winning 3rd place in a tournament. Again, there's no need for anyone to play 3 baseball games in one day, but these tournaments don't care. And happy Father's Day to you too.
Thank you, man. Happy Father's Day.
I said I want to go to bed. I'm so tired.
Anyone in the U.S., all over the world, hey, we can celebrate fathers everywhere. So, yeah, it was a good day. Got sushi for lunch, which is my favorite, so can't go wrong there. A couple notes before we get started. We've had some great feedback on our interview with Joe and Zach from Second String Leather Company in our last show. Just want to give a quick reminder, if you go to secondstringleather.com, they are doing a clearance sale right now on their last collection to make room for the new one. So you can get wallets made out of NHL goalie equipment from Andrea Vasilevsky, Ray Emery, Mike Vernon, Cam Talbot, Marty Turco, Jake Allen, Rick DiPietro, Yusei Saros, and more. And if you use the code GONGSHOW15, you can save an additional 15% even over the clearance price. So that was a great time to get some amazing products and wallets. I got a Vasilevsky wallet that's still in the package. I'm going to open it, I think, tomorrow and probably do a box opening video. But again, just wanted to give everyone the reminder to head to secondstringleather.com, check out their really sweet leather products and their wallets, which you still have to pick out one, Troy.
I do.
Look at him, man? Or you've been too busy coaching baseball?
I just coach baseball. That's my life now. That and hockey. Actually, yesterday, so we had the tournament, so I coached one game, but then Tonka, for our girls team, we have summer training program started, and we had scrimmages in Lakeville, so then I had to go to that. So I did coach some hockey yesterday, too.
Hockey never stops in Minnesota.
Hockey never stops.
Last note before we get going is just a reminder that the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a Patreon podcast. That means we rely on the support of listeners like you to help us cover our expenses, produce hopefully more and better hockey card content, and help us to fund initiatives, even in a small way, to grow the hockey card hobby. There's 8 spots left in our out of 99 support level tier. So still time to be one of the first 99 supporters of our show. You get exclusive access to their Discord server, chat with us on a daily basis there. It's super easy to support us. It's only $5 a month to join that out of 99 support level tier via Patreon. You can go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, click on the Become a Patron link, or go to the Patreon website at patreon.com and search for Hockey Cards Gongshow. There's a link in the show description for the podcast app you're listening to us on right now, or on our Instagram and TikTok profiles. There's a link in our link tree there. We have one new patron since our last show, Nate Eric. Nate's a musician, Troy. He has an album coming out in the fall. He does have one song out, though, called Now or Never, again by Nate Eric, and last name is spelled E-R-I-C-K. So you can go to any streaming service and check out Nate's song. And like we always say, if you do choose to support us via Patreon, we're happy to give you a little plug when we give you a shout out on the next show. You ready for the game plan?
I am, but that has to be, is that the first fan of the Gong Show that's a published musician? That's pretty sweet. I'm gonna have to go check it out.
Well, immediately I thought new theme song. Like
there you go.
We went to hit up Nate to
there you go.
come up with a Gong Show song. So
we're always coming up with ideas. We begin the show with the greatest NHL player to wear, number 92. Next, we take a look at the vintage hockey card market. Then it's off to hobby news, followed by a discussion on who is the biggest hobby breakout star of this season. Next, we look at some recent hockey card releases and some info around sales data for each of them. And we finish the show with new product releases. All right, Josh, it is episode 92. The greatest NHL player to wear, number 92. Per the Hockey Writer's greatest player to wear each number article is Gabriel Landeskog. We are both intimately familiar with Mr. Landeskog, being who he has played with and against, being Minnesota Wild fans. We have seen a lot of him. He is a left winger from Stockholm, Sweden. Josh, I've been to Stockholm, Sweden. Beautiful town, or beautiful city. A beautiful city in this little country called Sweden.
You play hockey there too?
I did play hockey over there for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Landeskog was the second overall pick in the 2011 NHL entry draft by the Colorado Avalanche. Landeskog has played in 738 regular season games over an 11-season NHL career. Landeskog has played all 11 of his seasons with the Colorado Avalanche, and therefore Josh and I are very familiar with him and how much the Wild stink against him. For his awards and accomplishments, he's a one-time Cup winner in 2022, 2012 Calder Trophy winner, 2011-12 All-Rookie Team selection, and a one-time All-Star Game selection. Over the course of his career in the regular season, he has 248 goals, 323 assists for 571 points. He's made the playoffs in 6 of his 11 NHL seasons, compiling 27 goals, 40 assists for 67 points in 69 playoff games played. Landeskog has had 8 seasons of 50-plus points and 9 seasons of 20-plus goals. The best season of his career from a point standpoint was his 2018-19 season, where Landeskog had 34 goals and 41 assists for 75 points in 73 games played. All right, Josh, personally, this is Troy's opinion. I can't stand Gabriel Landeskog. I do not like him. He is always I use the is versus was. It's kind of weird with him. I never know what to say. But he's always a pest against the Wild and was a thorn in the Wild side and will be probably forever until he retires. And when I was thinking about this, I had to actually look this up because I was like, you know what? I feel every time he played against the Wild, he scored against us. So I looked it up. And guess what? The team that Landeskog has scored the most career points against, yep, it's the Wild. He has scored 42 points against the Minnesota Wild. Feels like
shocking.
Very shocking. So if you look at Landeskog from his playing style, definitely a strong two-way player, willingness to shoot and dish out hits. In fact, when he came to North America from Sweden, he was actually known as a physical player, which is not the norm for European players. Usually Europeans, when they come over, they're more of a finesse type of style. They're not known to be big power hitters or mix it up. And this was kind of different with Landeskog when he came over. Now, this kind of thought process is shifting as Europeans are now getting more into the physical game. But there's still they're biased. I'll call it a bias. There's still a bias that they're a lot more finesse than their North American counterparts. Now with Landeskog, comes over, physical guy, and obviously his body is taking a beating. He's had a lot of issues with his knees the past couple of years, and that's where we get into the is versus the was. What do we say about him? In 2022, he underwent knee surgery, which eventually led him to miss the entire 22-23 season. In May of this year, he underwent a knee cartilage transplant procedure, which sounds absolutely awful, but I guess it has a pretty successful rate of success rate, like 85% or something in the literature I was reading about it.
I have a question for you. You have to choose one, so think carefully.
Oh.
Would you rather have a hip resurfacing or a knee cartilage transplant?
Oh, I don't know. I would say knee cartilage, but the recovery time for the knee cartilage is a whole year. So Landeskog's out next year, 23-24. He is out again. So this will be his second consecutive year that he's gone. I think hip replacement shaving 4 to 6 months, maybe, or 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
Which seems odd, but it stinks that Landeskog's going to miss his second full season this upcoming year. But he has said he's not retiring. He has not even considered it at this time. And I know you reminded me how he brought up Landeskog and his whole captaincy. And what do the Avalanche do when he was the captain? And now this will be his second straight season of not being on the team. Did they ever actually take the captaincy from him? I can't remember.
I don't think they have.
I don't think so either, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, it's not like I'm voting for him to lose his captaincy. But my point was, if having a captain is an important position on a hockey player or a hockey team, I should say, you would think you wouldn't want to go 2 years without one.
Yeah. Yep.
Because if you're willing to go 2 years without one, then it kind of means it's not an important position, right?
Yeah. again, this upcoming season will be a second straight year of not being able to play due to an injury, which stinks, really stinks. So we wish him well, even though I hope he doesn't play against the Wild ever again. He just plays against everyone else and scores against them. All right, fun/interesting facts. I put it in there because of the number thing, but he wears number 92 because he was born in 1992. We have lots of those.
Feels cliche at this point.
It is cliche. Just now I get bored reading those. All right, September 4th, 2012, Landeskog was named the captain of the Colorado Avalanche, which at the time made him the youngest captain in NHL history at 19 years and 286 days. However, this record has since been surpassed by Connor McDavid when he was named captain of the Oilers. Josh, could you imagine you at 19 years being named the captain of an NHL team? I sure can't. I know what I was like when I was 19. No way.
Does Connor Bedard break that record?
Oh, Connor Bedard. We'll see. Just name him captain right now. He'll get drafted and just name him captain. Go for it.
Can you be named captain before you're drafted?
Before you're drafted. Blackhawks have already announced it. All right. In 2011/12, Landeskog became the third Sweden-born player to win the Calder Trophy as the NHL's top rookie. The others were Peter Forsberg in 94-95 and Daniel Alfredsson of the Ottawa Senators in 1995-96.
That was back-to-back.
The Swedes had a little run there. All right, last one. He became the second NHL rookie to score 20 goals and record 200 hits in a season, joining Dion Phaneuf of the Calgary Flames in 2005-06. So again, that just talks again to his physical prowess. That's what we got for Landeskog. Anything you want to add in? Any lovely memories of him scoring against the Wild?
I just kind of feel bad for him. I don't like that he whoops us all the time. But, man, when your knees are done, I just feel like they're done. And I just hope he's not swimming upstream trying to get back to his playing career. It's kind of like the Joe Mauer thing for the Twins. When his knees were done, it was kind of over.
Yeah. There was an article in The Athletic, obviously, we'll talk about that again. I think one of the balls had the same exact surgery. I don't know which one it was. Lonzo, LaMelo, some other ball that's
probably
out
Lonzo.
there. Is it him? I don't follow basketball one bit, so I don't know which ball was injured. But that's where he did the arthroscopic surgery. I think that caused him to miss this year due to not complications, but he recovered, but then he tried to skate and it just didn't work. So then he took the next step to do the cartilage replacement or whatever. And he talked to Ball about that because I think he had the same surgery and that kind of led him to go down the route of doing it.
I think that Alonzo Ball is going to miss the whole next season too.
Yeah.
So, and here, my favorite thing to do is to play doctor. So I'm going to do it right now and probably sound like an idiot for any doctors out there that are listening. But when you start talking like cartilage issues, that's degenerative, right? And not like your wife who got into a skiing accident and has a tendon issue, which tendons heal. And then you're back to snuff. Like degenerative stuff doesn't typically ever get back to 100%.
I think that's why this whole surgery is kind of this new thing. I think it's a newer procedure. And remember, this whole thing happened. His knee problems started when he got like accidentally sliced by Makar's skate in the bubble, is how I believe all this started. It was like a freak. It was like a freak accident. I can't remember if it was a game practice or whatever, but it was just a freak thing that kind of happened. And now he's been having all these issues.
Huh.
All right. Let's look at his rookie card. Landeskog, 2011, Young Guns, number 208. PSA 10 has a pop of 276 with a gem rate of 64%. Goes in the whopping $90 range. You can find it pretty regularly in there. Doesn't sell constantly, but you can find it. It's out there. BGS 9.5 has a pop of 310 with a gem rate of 87%. Now, this one was a lot harder to find sales. I found a $100 sale on May 25th of this year, but that one had 210 subgrades. So again, this is when you get BGS, it's all about the subgrades, and it can kind of range up and down. But that one was a little more harder to find. There you go, though. Landeskog, great player. Just stop scoring in so wild, please.
Okay, we're going to take a look at the vintage hockey market. Haven't looked at it in great depth or detail in quite a bit because we've been preoccupied with hockey games in the NHL season. Well, the season's over. We're in the off season. And so in some ways it frees us up quite a bit to do some research projects like we did with the vintage market. And the core question, I guess, that I had, Troy, was, well, we know that the aggregate hockey market's been pretty down over the last few months. And when that happens, what you would expect, right, would be that the more modern cards would take a steeper hit and you would have greater stability in the vintage market. And so that was a question or a hypothesis that I went into trying to figure out, is this actually happening right now? Or is the vintage market getting or losing to the same extent that the modern hockey market is as well? So I kind of looked at it two ways. First, I looked at the indexes that we have on the various card tracking and data platforms that we use. And then from there, went and looked at some key vintage rookie cards and second year cards for like players like Wayne Gretzky. Not super comprehensive because we'd be here all night if we did it that way. But I think it's a good random sampling of what's happening right now in the vintage market. So let's start with the indexes. There's the only aggregate vintage, solely vintage index that I know of is in the Market Movers app. Because in Card Ladder, which we use probably a little bit more typically, they have just one combined hockey index that includes modern and vintage. So in Market Movers, you can look at 4 different slices of vintage cards. I don't love the way they do it because their oldest grouping is 1959 and older. And as we've learned so much about the vintage market in the past year, it really should be 51 and newer, and then older than 51, which would be considered pre-war cards. But they probably aren't as keyed in to the vintage hockey market. And so they just did it that way. So if you look at 1959 and older over the last 6 months, Troy, that index is down 5.6%. Then their next slice is they do 20-year gaps until the 90s. So then 1960 to 1979 is down 2.4%. 1980 to 89 is up 3.1%. And then 1990 to 1999 is down 10.6%. So not hugely down. 3 of the 4, though, are down a little bit with the exception of cards from 1980 to 1989. When you do compare it, though, to the Market Movers modern indexes, which they have 3, so 2000 to 2009, which is down 20%, 2010 to 2017, down 16.4%, and then the most modern, 2018 to 2020, is down 25.1%. So much steeper declines on the modern than in the vintage. Even comparing, now moving over to Card Ladder, whose hockey index, again, is combined vintage and modern. Over the past 6 months, that index is down 13%. So I think that's where you see sort of that the vintage mixed in with the modern cards there. So just looking at the indexes, which aren't perfect because there's, I think, issues with the date ranges, like we said. There's probably not the best mix or most optimal mix of cards that a expert in those categories would probably recommend having in there. But it is a data point. And like we always say with these, it's really about getting directional feedback and input and data. And none of this should ever be looked at as an absolute, right? It's not the definitive mark of how the hobby is doing for any one of those given sectors. But then I looked at some specific cards, and I've got 8 vintage players that we'll just run through quickly. And I'll be honest, this surprised me a little bit. I thought these guys would be down more than they are. And this is sort of me skipping to the end, I guess, a little bit. But I am surprised that the vintage market is doing, I think, as well as it is. First guy we looked at is Wayne Gretzky. His 1979 Topps rookie PSA 7, top 1,944, last sold for $2,520 US. It's up 3% in the past 6 months. His 79 O-Pee-Chee rookie PSA 9 popped 91. Now this is a bigger dollar card. 114,000 was last sale. That is down 27% in the past 6 months. Then I looked at his second year O-Pee-Chee PSA 9 pop 304. Last sale $2,310, up 1% in the past 6 months. So a little bit of a mixed bag on Gretzky. I know, and it really is a mixed bag. If you go through it, Card Ladder does a great job of all the different graded levels of his 79 Topps, O-Pee-Chee 80, and I think even 81, that you'll find good mix that are up and a good mix that are down. Looking at Bobby Orr, looked at really 3 cards of his 1966 Topps rookie PSA 6, top 132. Last sold for $13,500 US, down 2% in the past 6 months. 1966 Topps rookie PSA 5, top 133. I think that one's a USA test. Last sold for the first one might have been a USA test. Last sold for $6,490, down 13% in the past 6 months. And then I looked at a more veteran card of his, 1969 O-Pee-Chee PSA 8, top 47. Last sold for $2,554, up 16% in the past 6 months. So a little bit down in general for Orr, but again, relatively stable. Next guy was Gordie Howe. Looked at his rookie, his 51 Parkhurst PSA 7, top 44. Last sold for $31,200, up 8% in the past 6 months. And then more of a veteran card is 1954 Topps PSA 6, top 120. Last sale $2,010, down 18% in the past 6 months. Steve Yzerman's 84 O-Pee-Chee PSA 10, pop 123. Last sold for $4,080, up 2% in the past 6 months. Mark Messier, 80, their 1980 O-Pee-Chee rookie PSA 10, pop 43. Last sale $11,410, down 17% in the past 6 months. A couple more. Mike Bossy's 1978 O-Pee-Chee rookie PSA 9, pop 120. Last sale $2,150 US, up 37% in the past 6 months.
Very familiar with that sale. That made me. I mean, it made me happy, but it also made me sad because it just puts that card out of my range right now.
And then last two, Mario Lemieux's 85 O-Pee-Chee PSA 9, pop 627. Last sale is $3,252 US, up 19% in the past 6 months. And Patrick Waugh's 1986 O-Pee-Chee rookie PSA 10, pop 90. Last sale $5,520 US, down 16% in the past 6 months. So again, just sort of a random sample of the biggest names or some of the biggest names or legends in vintage. And as you can see, it's a mixed bag. But as we're comparing hockey to not just between vintage and modern, but also looking at other sports where we've had basketball get crushed like 30% down over a year, I think that as you'd expect, like I said, that the vintage market looks a little bit more stable overall than definitely the modern hockey card market and the greater sports card market as a whole, which to me is good because I go back to kind of where we started. That's what you would expect. These are all players whose careers are over. Mm-hmm. Their status is, or their legend is minted, aside from an O.J. Simpson kind of thing where there's some crazy personal life issue in their retirement that could negatively affect how people view that player. But yeah, I think that given where our economy's at, given where the sports card market and trading card market is at, that vintage is probably your best bet if you're a hockey card collector versus the more volatile modern stuff. Would you agree?
I agree 100%. Modern stuff's, I think, always going to be the more volatile stuff. And we've said it before in the past. When you start looking at indexes, look at the history, usually the safer stuff is in the vintage. And it was funny because you mentioned how down, and we've heard about this. I mean, you just felt it. The whole market of sports cards is not the highs anymore for people. Those days are long gone for who knows how long. But I was just pulling up Card Ladder as you speak, and I mean, football the past 6 months down 27% in their index. Basketball is down 34%. Entertainment 46%. I mean, it's getting brutal out there for some of these categories. Here's the other thing. You want to know what's up? The S&P 500's up like 15% in the past 6 months. So I think that's always an interesting correlation between like the stock market, which kind of talks about the economy, and the sports card market. But it's kind of what we felt just when you've been doing all your recent sales and big all-time high sales and stuff. Vintage still seems to be holding stronger than modern. It's not perfect, but it's definitely got less losses than the more modern stuff.
I think with modern right now, you have to be super selective.
Yeah, you got to find the pocket where it's at. Like, you have to be smart.
You have to know the right card. Like in a boom market, any card of a hot player is going to do well. In my mind, today, it has to be the right card.
Yeah.
So not to pick on like a Synergy or something like that, but it's a O-Pee-Chee Platinum or a Future Watch Auto.
Yep.
Some card that's got a pedigree and is an established chase in the hobby that you have to kind of default to those cards right now, and it's going to be tougher, especially even to sell, not let alone for the price you want, but just to sell a lot of these modern cards that are coming out in these new sets almost every week, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. All things equal, I think the vintage market is doing relatively well for where we're at. I guess that's where I would put it. Okay, quick mention for Gongshow partner PWCC. Thank them for sponsoring our show. The current weekly auction is live. You can check it out on pwcc.com. There's 258 hockey cards in this week's auction. Troy and I will pick out our favorite vintage and modern cards and highlight them on this coming Thursday show. There's also 3 days left in the June PWCC Premier Auction. There's 2 hockey cards in that auction. I think I mentioned them a couple weeks ago. A 2005 The Cup Sidney Crosby RPA out of 99 PSA 8. And then a 2015 O-Pee-Chee Platinum Seismic Gold Auto out of 25 PSA 9. Already has a bid of $10,000, so that doesn't include the buyer's premium. So I think already, Troy, this will be the highest publicly selling O-Pee-Chee Platinum card.
Interesting.
And that's not even with any more bids. And a card like that, I could see getting a couple more bids too. If you're not an auction person, there's always the PWCC fixed price marketplace, where there's almost 5,000 hockey cards listed right now, again, at pwccmarketplace.com. And after a 1-week hiatus, I'll be back with Jeremy Lee covering the hockey cards that close in the PWCC weekly auction this upcoming Sunday on Jeremy's Sports Card Live YouTube channel. Starts at 8:30 Central Time. Okay, Troy, in hobby news, huge story. And it got bigger than I actually thought it was, because there's a little bit of controversy with this, which is always kind of fun. Maybe not so much fun for the buyer, but we'll see.
Would you say hobby drama?
I don't know if it's hobby drama, but this is kind of my favorite thing to do. So we've been tracking for a while and mentioned on the show a few times already the Golden 100 auction that featured a 2005-6 The Cup Alexander Ovechkin RPA out of 99 PSA 10, top 1 at that grade, that ended up selling for $184,200 US, which makes it, Troy, the highest selling Alexander Ovechkin card of all time. The previous high was $105,780 for another Cup RPA out of 99 BGS 910 in October 2021. So that is almost $80,000 more than the most recent sale. That's a big sale. Not only is it a record Ovechkin sale, it also becomes now one of the highest selling hockey cards ever. When you look at the cards that have sold for more than this card, right? There's 17 Wayne Gretzky rookies between O-Pee-Chee and Topps that have sold for more than this card, anywhere from 198 to 3.75 million. But then the list gets a lot smaller after that. You've had Bobby Orr, who's had 2 sales higher than this. He had a 1966 Topps USA Test PSA 9 that sold for $200,040 US in February 19. And then a 1966 Topps BVG 10 Pristine that sold for $276,000 US in February 2021. Then we have Connor McDavid, who has 2 higher sales as well, both on his 2015 The Cup RPA out of 99 PSA 10s. One went for $200,099 US in August of 2022. And then the highest McDavid is a $228,000 Cup RPA that sold in July of a month earlier in July of 2022. Then the only other card that sold for more than this Ovechkin is the 1951 Parkhurst Gordie Howe PSA 8.5 that sold for $205,200 US in May 2021. So it obviously puts this Ovechkin card in very elite territory when it comes to the hockey hobby. One more little comparison, because he's always compared to Crosby, is the high-selling Crosby card was last year, his Skybox Metal Universe Retro Gold PMG that sold for $164,400 US, so just about $20,000 even, or $18,000 less. But here comes the
the kicker,
maybe controversial part. So we did a post today, like we do with our record sales, and heard back from a lot of people. The first thing we heard was the centering on this card is awful, according to people that commented Instagram. And then you look at the card and you're like, oh yeah, wow, it really does seem off-centered. And people were asking, well, how is this a PSA 10? and we're not graders, so we're not in any position to know how cards are graded. But then where it got really interesting is a listener sent us a photo of this card. And again, these cards are serial numbered, so you can tell this card, which is serial numbered 55 out of 99, was previously a BGS 9.
Uh-oh.
So let's go back and look at this whole situation. A 2005 The Cup, Alexander Ovechkin, RPA out of 99, BGS 9, gets cracked, sub to PSA, gets a 10, right? Some may say controversially. How do you go from BGS 9 to 10 where the centering is so off to begin with? You can tell it's off.
You look at that card. You were talking, I glanced at it for 2 seconds and could tell you the centering is way off.
And then somebody paid $184,000 for it. You'd have to assume largely because it's a PSA 10 Pop 1. It's the only PSA 10. The obvious moral of the story, number one, is always follow the rule by the card, not the grade.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard not to feel cringy or bad for the buyer here.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, remember, this is almost $80,000 more than any other Ovechkin card that's ever sold. And that number 2, ironically, is a BGS 9 Cup RPA, which this card was previously.
Yeah, I feel bad. I will say our comment section is pretty hilarious on this card. On your Instagram post, just people talking about how ugly it is. I cracked up when the ones like someone said a PSA 10 with an 8 centering. That's great or whatever. It's just kind of chuckled at that. But yeah, it's very interesting. And obviously being serial numbered, we can trace it back a little ways. And that's interesting about the whole BGS thing, which you alerted me to.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you, well, you just got to hope that whoever spent $185,000 has plenty of disposable income and will enjoy the card and be happy with it. And who cares if buy what you love, right? That's what they say. Or I would be kicking myself right now if I knew all of this backstory had I spent that kind of money. And I think the other kind of reminder that, and of course, everything we do is on a so much smaller scale than this, but this can happen just as easily if you're buying $1,000 card as well as $185,000 card. And so do your research and ask people that know more than you, that have been in the hobby longer than you, if you're going to buy a Grail type card or go way outside of what you would normally spend, and resist the impulse urge, because I don't know. I just don't see how, if the buyer ends up with complete information, how they would not really regret buying this card. So yeah, a little bit controversial. We'll see what happens. And man, at this point, if you ever do get a true PSA 10 that is centered and everyone generally agrees is a gem mint, it sets the stage for a pretty big number there, and maybe get him over the $200,000 mark, which is very rarefied air when it comes to the hockey hobby. Okay, moving on to our next story real quick. Pretty big signing. Well, medium signing, we'll call it.
Yeah, I'll call it medium signing. Jesper Bratt.
Jesper Bratt re-signs with the Devils for 8 years, $63 million. It seems like everyone now signs for like $7.8 million average annual value. Like that's the new NHL contract.
Yep.
He's a 24-year-old Swede forward for Troyeur New Jersey Devils, coming off a career season, which he had 32 goals, 41 assists for 73 points. The 73 points does tie his 2021-22 season total, but the 32 goals is what really makes it a career high. It's the most goals he's scored in any season of his hockey career, going back to like whatever Pee-wees were in Sweden. So I looked up his hockey history.
Hey, so you stalked him. That's great. Stalked him back to his childhood, figure out how many goals he scored.
To me, he falls into this interesting category of players that is very tantalizing, that you want to, it's like, oh, maybe I should get some Jesper Bratt Young Guns or cards or something like that, where you're kind of expecting a breakthrough, but he's like 70% where he would need to be, I think, very hobby relevant, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. He's got some pretty,
and I just think,
I was going to say he's got some pretty down years from a goals perspective, so he has to have more than that. And then to me, what do I know him from? It's Spinning Chicklets. It's Bizanet doing the Jesper Bratt. That's the most I know of him and why he's relevant. I'm going to guess, and I didn't look at your notes or anything. I'm guessing you go through the cards. But I'm guessing it's not worth much. His Young Guns in a PSA 10 holder is my thought. Probably not very hobby relevant.
And I'm not saying that these guys are equal, but I kind of put him in this hobby tier of like him, Rope Hintz, Mikko Rantanen, Braden Point, Carter Verhaeghe, all these guys that will have a season where they score 39, 40 goals, something like that, but yet are the third best player on their team and will just never have hobby relevance. But sometimes you just can't help yourself after like a 4-goal game of going in and buying their cards, and then nothing ever materializes and you regret it 3 months later. Boy, I sound like that comes from experience, because it does. And that's what I do all the freaking time.
Hey, you're sharing. It's a pretty good team, though, if you've made up of just those guys. That's a pretty good squad. As
you mentioned, Brad is a 2017 Young Gun. His PSA 10 pop 65, which is really low.
That's really low.
45% gem rate, last sold for $81 US.
Ooh.
Down pretty significant. So if you go to the start of last season on October 26th, it had peaked at 185 US, down 56% since then.
Yeah, I'm guessing. I don't know what the pop was, but I'm guessing it was a lot less. That's probably what helped push that up a little bit.
Another kind of quick story is I saw this on Instagram or Twitter or something like that. I just thought it was interesting. So looking back quick at the Las Vegas win, their Stanley Cup win, there's a list of teams that in NHL history that won the Stanley Cup in their first 6 seasons. So here they are. It's the 2023 Las Vegas Golden Knights, who won it in their 6th season. Before that, it was 1984 Edmonton Oilers won the Stanley Cup in their 5th season.
So that would NHL season. I got you, because they were in the WHA or WHL, whatever before. Gotcha.
Then you have to go way back to 1929. The Boston Bruins won the Stanley Cup in their 5th season. In 1920, the OG Ottawa Senators won in their 3rd season. The New York Rangers, Troy, won in 1928, which was in their 2nd season. And then your favorite team, the Montreal Maroons,
love it,
won the Stanley Cup in 1926, which was also the franchise's 2nd season. The only team to ever win the Stanley Cup in their 1st season was the Toronto Arenas, who did it in 1918. Maybe they should have stayed the Arenas.
At some point, wasn't every team when the NHL started, right? Wasn't every team in there their first year in the NHL? So someone was going to get this accolade.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, the first year of the NHL.
Well, that's a Toronto Arenas.
Toronto Arenas.
I like that.
Nobody's had more names than Montreal, though.
Yeah, I love all the different crazy names. I thought when I saw this headline about the Stanley Cup, I thought we were going to go have a breakdown of, was it William Karlsson's drunken stage presence, falling over, shirt off, speech, got the microphone taken away from him. That seemed like a crazy party that the old Vegas Golden Knights had on the Strip.
Hey, man, living their best life.
Hey, living their best life. I say go for it. Have fun.
Last story in hobby news is the ESPN Power Rankings for 2023-24 are out, Troy. So we'll look at what ESPN believes are going to be the best and worst teams next season. And I did this in groups of 6. So I'm going to start with the worst teams.
Okay.
So at rank 32, last team, they have Anaheim.
Yes.
31, San Jose.
Yep.
30, the Yotes. 29, the Flyers. 28, the Blackhawks.
Whatever.
And 27, Columbus.
No love for Bedard, but no, they're not. They should not be good. I have no qualms with any of those teams. Even though Columbus, hey, you got Johnny Hockey. Let's get a little better there.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that Anaheim, too, has some of the most exciting young talent in the league. You have Trevor Zegras, Mason McTavish, Jamie Drysdale, and yet they're still considered the worst team. One thing, though, that I've noticed is any mention of their new coach, Greg Cronin, it always talks about that he was hired for his teaching abilities, basically insinuating that that's why he was hired. And as a hockey coach, I've been meaning to ask you this, what does that mean to you when they say, well, we hired this guy because he's a good teacher? Does that mean that these kids don't know where they're supposed to be or don't know how to act as NHL players, or all of the above? When you read between the lines there?
It could be that, or it could be that he's more in tune with the younger generation and can talk to them and speak to them and get them to buy into what he's telling them. I can't remember who the Anaheim Ducks coach was before, but when they usually say those teaching abilities, it's just being able to connect with these players. That's a huge part of it now, is connecting. You're seeing the guys, I'll call them the dinosaurs, that are very gruff, very standoffish. They're kind of getting phased out. Now, there's still some of them around, But that doesn't work, I don't think, anymore in the NHL. And you need guys that connect and can teach. And have a teaching background actually helps a lot for being a hockey coach or any type of coach. So that's what I'm guessing they mean when they talk about those teaching abilities.
Would you consider Daryl Sutter a teaching coach?
I would consider him a very gruff and hard-nosed, but I love every quote he says. No matter what it is, talking about players going to the bathroom during the game or whatever. It's fantastic.
He needs to be like a color commentator.
Would you imagine how grumpy he'd be? Just, wow.
I would love that. And then, okay, the Blackhawks at 28. My brain's not computing here, Troy. Isn't Bedard good for 50 wins automatically himself?
Yeah, they're going to be in a rebuild for a couple of years. Hey, you got a great place to start. Great place to start. We're having Bedard.
Okay, the next group, you have at 26th in the ESPN Power Rankings, Montreal, 25 Vancouver, 24 the Blues, 23 the Capitals, 22 Winnipeg, and 21 Pittsburgh. This to me is an interesting group. We have another young team with lots of talent in the Canadiens. Few teams that are in flux. We have like the Canucks, Blues, and Jets, who we don't know if they're buying or selling off everyone, going into rebuilds this year. But then, Troy, you also have Capitals and Penguins, who in this grouping, ESPN is projecting that they're going to be out of the playoffs. So are we looking at potentially a second straight year with no Sidney Crosby, no Alex Ovechkin in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Could be. I'm curious. I didn't see the article that they talked about. I don't know if they went in depth on each of these teams.
Not really.
Yeah. Well, to me, the way it's sounding, I obviously don't know the rest of the list, but it sounds like they just took this year's standings and said, okay, everyone in the end at the last part, or in the last places, you're going in the terrible group. Yeah, that is interesting.
I don't see Pittsburgh and Washington making the playoffs next year.
I don't either.
There's always surprise teams. There's always teams that you think are going to be great and that end up stinking, and vice versa, that comes out of nowhere teams. But Crosby and Ovechkin are not getting any younger, and they just don't have any youthful, exciting players to.
What's interesting about Washington, and who knows if this will happen, but at what point do you think they just, I've been trying to think about this, they just feed Ovechkin trying to get him goals and not making the smarter hockey play? They just keep trying to feed Ovechkin to give him more goals and try to beat Gretzky's record, which probably has a detriment at some point.
Okay, then the next group at 20 in ESPN's Power Rankings is Nashville, 19 Detroit, 18 Calgary, 17 Ottawa, 16 Seattle, and 15 LA Kings. So this is the group that I would, going by how many teams make the playoffs, would be, according to ESPN, most likely fighting for playoff spots. And at 17, if the rankings play out, Ottawa would be the last team out of the playoffs, which to me would be a big bummer because they're young, have a really exciting, good core of young players with like Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle, other guys like Pinto, and hopefully, I guess, Josh Norris. I think it'd be really good for the hobby for Ottawa to make the playoffs, so I'm going to be counting on that. But any thoughts on this group, Troy? This next couple groups are kind of the middling teams.
I'm actually really excited to see what Seattle can do going forward after having, I would say, a better than expected season this year. And plus the Kings, too. I'm interested to see what they do because I felt like they came out of a little bit of nowhere, but maybe I just didn't follow them enough to know how good they would be. But I'm curious about how Seattle kind of follows up this year with next year.
Then at 14, our Minnesota Wild.
Incredibly high. That's incredibly high for them.
13, Buffalo. 12, the New York Rangers. 11, your Toronto Maple Leafs. 10, the Islanders. And 9, the Panthers. So
the Leafs.
If we're calling the last group the fighting for playoffs group, this would be the first round exit group.
Yep.
Right?
That's us.
Which is very typical for the Wild, but also the Leafs. And I made the connection in doing this that
Nice.
both your teams
Yep,
can't basically make it past the first round ever. So way to pick.
I'm so curious why the Wild are this high. What gives you any hope for them? They have, still 14 million or something, 15 million in dead cap space with Suter and Parise. I guess maybe Wallstedt. I don't know if he's going to be up next year or if it's going to be Gustafsson. I haven't signed him yet, I don't think. I think they're just kind of in flux, what's happened with Dumba. I just don't see a lot of hope for them going forward. We got Kaprizov, I guess. That's our one.
Well, he'd have to score 60 goals, and Boldy would have to have 35-40. That's the only way that's happening.
And the guys could not be surprised when the puck's on their stick after a sweet pass from Kaprizov and just flub it like they usually do.
So if Buffalo finishes 13th, like ESPN is predicting, they would be in the playoffs. So that's a big win.
Yeah,
for the
exciting.
hobby.
That's a really exciting team. If you're a Buffalo fan, you just got to be loving this.
Then the Panthers at number 9, Troy. Is that a shots fired by ESPN? Is that disrespect to the Stanley Cup runner-ups? Or do you think they outpunted their coverage a little bit this year and might be a good candidate to fall back a little bit next year?
They were an 8 seed coming into the playoffs, so I'm thinking that ESPN's saying that's about where they should be, or maybe a little lower.
Okay, now it starts to get more serious. So at number 8, you have the Lightning. 7, the Edmonton Oilers. 6, the Hurricanes. 5, the Bruins.
So it's
4, Dallas. And 3, Colorado.
Yeah.
So if the Oilers are number 7, ESPN must be assuming they're going to find a goalie somewhere.
Yeah. Well, Colorado is the betting favorite, right? Are they the one that came out as the betting favorite to win the Cup is Colorado?
What about the Bruins having the best regular season of all time, and then now 5th in the power ranking? Well, Dries Bergeron retiring, is that going to make that big of a deal?
Yeah, and is this a regular season power ranking, or is this saying these are who could win the Cup
going into the start of the season?
Yeah, okay, I got you. Because what we saw at the Bruins, they were built for the regular season and not built for the playoffs.
And their last 2 teams are number 2, the New Jersey Devils, and the number 1, the Golden Knights.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised by the Golden Knights. In these power rankings, they always default to whoever won the championship, which makes sense. But I do think the Devils at the number 2 is pretty interesting. They had a good playoff run. I think this year was an important step, but I didn't think they were that great in their series against Carolina. They got beat pretty sound.
Agree. And are they banking on I can't never remember his name. Who's the Devils guy that was injured? That was like a huge key to their team. And he should be back next year.
That's Carolina. That's Andreas Svechnikov.
Oh, I was thinking why am I thinking Sharon? I'm off. I was the wrong team. Never mind.
Okay. Well, I don't know if Sharon Govich was hurt too. Was he?
I don't know. I didn't follow the Devils.
I mean, that's a little bit surprising that ESPN is saying that the Devils are going to take a big step forward. It also, I think back to, and I think I was listening to this on Spittin' Chicklets or some other hockey podcast, where they were making the point that if you looked at the Stanley Cup Finals and ultimately who made it between Las Vegas and Florida, that it's teams that are big and physical and tough.
Yeah, the little teams don't make it.
Versus all these little finessey teams, which I would kind of put the Devils in that group. So it's like, are they built to win in the playoffs? I think that would be the other question. Because they're a bunch of small, little, teeny, tiny guys that do Michigan goals.
We love Michigan goals. No, I was way off. There's no one injured for the Devils at the end of the year. I'm an idiot. Okay.
So that's the ESPN.
They're both red. They were both red teams, I guess. I got that close.
Maybe they're assuming brother Luke is going to have a huge impact and recruit brother Quinn and brother Jack Quinn over and make the Devils unbeatable there. All right, we're going to move on to, I don't know if we call this Gongshow Awards or what we're calling it, but we're going to kind of look back at the 2022-23 season and, I don't know, name, like in this case, who we think the breakout star of the year was. This is another fun thing now that we get to do because it's the off season. So if we go back to the start of the 2022 season, which was October 7th, and look at mainly from a hockey hobby perspective, who were the biggest breakout stars? I came up with 4 candidates, and all 4 I think are really strong candidates. I don't know what it's like. This is the first year that we've done this, so maybe as years go on, we'll have weaker years and stronger years. Who knows? But I have Connor Bedard, J-Rob, Jason Robertson, Tage Thompson, and your guy Matthew Tkachuk, Troy. So we're going to go through each of them, kind of state the case, why they should be the breakout star of the year. We did an Instagram poll, too, that had a lot of response, and we'll see what the listeners and followers of our social media have to say who they think the biggest hobby breakout star was this year, and then you and I will give our opinions, and we'll decide. So candidate 1, Connor Bedard. This past season, Bedard set the CHL and really the hockey world on fire. In 57 games played, he scored 71 goals, added 72 assists for 143 points. That is more than 2 points per game, which is crazy. In the WHL playoffs, he added 10 goals, 10 assists in 7 games. And to top that, in the 2023 World Junior U20 Championships, he produced 9 goals, 14 assists for 23 points in just 7 games played, which again is incredible. He is a people think is a generational talent, the number one pick. There's lots of great hopes that he'll be the next Crosby, Ovechkin, McDavid, Austin Matthews type player. So let's look at some data to see, was this a breakout year, and is he the biggest breakout star of the past season? So we use that October 7th as sort of our dividing line. Prior to last season, and using Card Ladder, 1,104 Connor Bedard cards had sold on the secondary market. So that's all time before the season started. Since October 7th, 4,768 cards have sold. So more than a 4 times increase in the 8 months since last season started to any time before that. You can see just by that a big acceleration of interest in his cards. Now let's look at some of the high sales. So prior to last season, the highest selling Connor Bedard card was $3,300 US, and he had 28 sales over $1,000. Since the start of last season, high sales $12,600 US, and he's had an amazing 141 cards sell for more than $1,000. Again, the crazy part is he has 0 cards in an NHL sweater. Yep. These are all either WHL, CHL, or Team Canada cards. Candidate 1, Connor Bedard. Our second candidate is Jason Robertson, who's still only 23 years old, appears to have superstar written all over him. In 2021, in just his second season, he scored 41 goals, produced 79 points, but was not to be outdone this last year, where he set the Dallas franchise record with 46 goals, 63 assists for 109 points, and played all 82 games. He was good, but not great in the playoffs, but is so young, Troy, that it's impossible not to be excited. I think about his future. And then you look at the team he's on. Dallas has a super young, very talented core who you have to think are going to be playoff contenders for a long time. Prior to the start of the 2021 season, there had been 5,823 cards that had sold over a 25-month period. So if you look at the first Jason Robertson card to ever sell up to the start of the season, it was 25 months, 5,823 cards, and at 21 sales of more than $1,000. After the start of the 2022-23 season, over the last 8 months, he's at 6,545 total sales based on Card Ladder, and 95 sales of more than $1,000. So almost a 5 times increase of, I'm using $1,000 as higher end card, arbitrary number there. Next guy, Tage Thompson, had never scored more than 8 goals in a season prior to 2021 in the NHL. Then his production jumped to 38 goals and 68 points in 2021, and took another jump this past season where he really broke out and had 47 goals, 47 assists for 94 points in 78 games played. He's got star power, caught the attention of the hobby, and is a leader of another young and up-and-coming team that I think has a really good chance of making the playoffs in 2023-24. So again, we'll look at his card sales prior to the start of last season. Only 824 cards in Card Ladder had sold in almost a 5-year span. He had 0 sales of more than $1,000.
Wow.
Since then, 2,885 cards have sold, so 4x increase again over the last 8 months, and 9 cards have sold for more than $1,000. Then we have our last guy, Matthew Tkachuk, who's had really an amazing last 2 years. He had 42 goals, 104 points in 2021, 40 goals, 109 points in 2022. Had an amazing playoff run this year where again and again he proved to be clutch. He's got the personality, edge, star power to be really one of the marketable faces of the NHL, should the NHL ever decide to market their players. He's only 25 years old, so plenty of good years left and just prime. Plus, he's managed, Troy, to find his way out of the Bermuda Triangle of hobby irrelevance, which is every team in Florida, which we think is a major accomplishment. And looking at his card sales prior to the start of last season and post, he had 3,361 total sales in more than 6 years prior to the start of last season. So 3,300 cards sold in a 6-year span. 2 sales more than $1,000. Since the start of last season, 2,934 sales and 8 sales of more than $1,000. Before we get your input and I give my pick, I mentioned we did an Instagram poll asking our social media followers who they thought the biggest breakout star of last season was. Connor Bedard, Jason Robertson, Tage Thompson, and Matthew Tkachuk. And I was kind of surprised by this, actually. Not even super close. Tage Thompson, 32% of the vote, is the winner of the poll. Second place was J-Rob at 24%, and then Connor Bedard and Matthew Tkachuk each had 22%.
Are we sending Thompson an award, or what are we sending him?
I don't know. A Ryan O'Reilly card?
There you go. Yeah, we'll O'Reilly him.
Okay, so you saw number one. Do you agree that those are the 4 top candidates, or did I screw up? And
I mean, they're the 4 anybody? I don't even think I probably would have thought of Bedard. With him not being in the NHL, it's hard for me to still wrap my head around him. But once you lay out all the stuff, yes, he should be in there. And the other 3, I agree.
So who would you pick for your breakout star of the year?
When you're reading through it, to me, the guy that stands out the most and I went back and read the title, the biggest hobby breakout star. To me, that encompasses a lot, and I guess it's subjective to what I want to think. But the guy that surprised and came, I'll say, out of nowhere, I actually agree with the listener or the readers, the Tage Thompson. If you look at the guy, there was nothing in his pedigree that said he's going to be a breakout star. He had one kind of good year, but before that was 4 brutal years, or not brutal, but not high point producing. And then he kind of comes out of nowhere and just goes bonkers. And looking at the card sales, obviously we can see the huge jump in total cards, but having nothing for over 1,000, and then you go to 9 over 1,000. The only thing I kind of weighs me a little bit on him is he'll be like, I think 26 next year when the season starts, so he's a little older. But I do actually like the case for Tage Thompson.
Maybe that fact, too, fits that breakout definition better anyways. I don't know.
Like, nothing surprised me. I mean, like with Tkachuk, I think he was known to be a good player and a superstar, but he did break out of the Bermuda Triangle, we'll call it, in his year in Florida. But I think Tage is where I'm leaning for who the biggest breakout star.
It's hard to argue that, but I think from my point of view, I have to go with Bedard. And you're right that I think Tage is more coming out of nowhere, and Bedard had been talked about for years going back. But just the sheer volume,
for a non-NHL guy, how crazy is that?
It's completely unprecedented. There's almost no words left to describe what's happening. And the craziest part is, as nutty as this year's been, in the last 8 months, 141 sales of more than $1,000. And he hasn't ever played an NHL game. Yep. What if he has 45 goals next year?
Okay, just say, hear me out. Say it, season starts October, Bedard's playing. I mean, just think if he goes on some crazy run where he just scores 10 goals in the month of October or whatever. Just, could you imagine the hype train? Oh my gosh, blow up.
Well, I guess we're doing the math here. If it's the listeners and social media followers vote for Tage Thompson and you vote for Tage Thompson, 2-1 margin, he wins. So he wins a great pack of worthless Ryan O'Reilly inserts that will be sure.
Yeah, I just
kind of ironic too, since he was traded for Ryan O'Reilly.
That's true.
So
Very
I don't know
true.
If you take it the right way.
That's crazy. It all comes back together. It's full circle. But yeah, I get, man, the Bedard stuff is kind of crazy. It is kind of nuts.
Isn't there that like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing in hockey? It should be the 6 degrees of Ryan O'Reilly.
Boy, you really showed our age there, because we were old enough to remember that website that you could go and I'm sure it's still out there, but it was a big deal for a little bit, where you could type in any actor and it would show you how many, what was it, like movies or roles they were separated from Kevin Bacon.
Last thing I'll say, I'm just predicting that when we do this next off season, the list isn't going to be as good. What an incredible year for guys to really take it to the next level, I guess.
Well, I hope you jinxed it and like Bedard sells 100,000 cards or something.
Crazy. I need to make a quick mention for Slab Sharks, who, of course, is a Gongshow partner sponsor. We want to thank them for sponsoring our show. The current Slab Sharks weekly eBay auction is live, ends this Thursday. Head to slabsharks.com for a link to the auction. Check out the cards in this week's auction. Per usual, there's some awesome hockey cards available this week. A couple of Future Watch autos for Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner from your Toronto Maple Leafs, Troy. Both BGS 9.5 10s. I have a direct message right now to Phil, Gongshow listener and patron and supporter, otherwise known as Loud Collector. Phil, there's a 1990 Pro Set Stanley Cup hologram BGS 4. You've bought in about 7,000.
He's getting it through the box. He's gonna rip it in a box.
Yeah, you can save yourself a fortune and just buy this one. There's a 2021 SP Authentic Cole Caulfield Future Watch Acetate. A lot of acetate love lately, so it'll be fun to follow that one. Like I said, lots of great cards to check out. And if you're a Canadian hockey card collector looking to sell some of your cards and prefer for it to be easy, we'd recommend checking out Slab Shark's eBay consignment services. They basically do all the work for you, take away all the typical hassles for selling your cards on eBay. Your cards will also be exposed to lots of hockey card loving folks, and they're very popular Slab Sharks weekly auctions. Again, head to slabsharks.com for complete information on their consignment services. Okay, Troy, I'm going to pass the conch to you. We wanted to look at some recent releases because there's been a million of them lately, and we kind of just move on to the next because they're coming so fast, and we haven't taken the time to look back even a couple months and try to figure out what's happened, which one of these sets are landing and really resonating with collectors. To me, the last one that I know for sure really connected was SP Legends Signature Edition, right? We knew like instantly that was a hit. There's been 6, 7, 8 releases since then.
I think I looked at 6 or 7. 6 maybe? 6. I can tell you which one's not connecting, but we'll get to that, I guess.
Okay. So yeah, I'll turn it over to you and you can kind of run us all through it. But I thought this was really interesting, all the work that you did here.
Yeah, let's just say Josh felt the wrath of my text come through, and I said, this is stupid and frustrating. I'll get into why, and I'll get into some. I really think at the end of this, there's a part where I put what I learned, and it's like a bunch of Troy thoughts that I kind of picked up when I was doing this. So again, like Josh said, lots of new releases that we've had, and want to take a look at numbers of sales, what cards are the top sales, just to get a kind of idea what's going on with these new releases that we've talked about but haven't done really that big of deep dives on. So what I did, I went through each of these sets that I identified. I think it was 6, if I remember off the top of my head. And I looked at number of sales, and I actually went on eBay and used Terapeak. I thought that gave me a little better information for what I wanted to look at. And then I also used kind of a mix of Terapeak Card Ladder when I was looking for the top sales, just to make sure I could verify each with the other and make sure I'm not including one that wasn't paid for, or one of those crazy fun things. And I also looked at box prices just to see if anything's changed there. And I used waxstat.com, which is a site that tracks kind of hobby box pricing or case pricing over the lifespan of a product to see when it goes up, down, all that fun stuff. Now, there's a lot of stuff to look at with this and how you group it, how do you filter it. What I did, I'm going to kind of take a step back. I grouped all this data kind of by release and just looked at transactions there are on the secondary market for each release. I wanted to look at highest sales and any other specific player or card information I could kind of take. Now, it's by far not a comprehensive analysis. Like Josh said, we don't want to be here for 10 hours going over this. But I look at it as like a quick overview of recent release sets and help gauge market reaction. When I used Terapeak, I used both eBay.com and eBay.ca. So I used those two sites because that's going to encapsulate probably 99% of the hockey cards. But I also did some filtering on category. I made it trading card singles. And then for sport, I did ice hockey. Because one thing you'll find is you'll get a lot of, I will say, garbage or other stuff coming into these that you want to filter out. The way I did it is not perfect. There's no perfect way to do this, but I just wanted to try to get it as perfect as I could. And again, we'll use that term directional data. That's why we do this, to give us some kind of direction. So now that we got all that, let's start. Josh, we're going to start with 2122 SP Authentic, the hobby box we bought and didn't get our redemption packs. So I'm sad. All right. Its release date was April 19th of this year. Box pricing has stayed steady at $189.95 US from release date to yesterday, and that's on David Adams and Steel City. I only looked at the US retailers, but it's been steady at $189.95. If we look at number of sales on eBay, verified by Terapeak, eBay.com has 16,998 sales. eBay.ca has 11,993 for a total of 28,991. Total
That's
sales.
a lot.
It's a lot of sales.
That really surprises me in a good way.
Yep.
Nice to see that, holy cow, are people buying a lot of these cards on the secondary market.
Yeah, I don't know if this is bearing the lead, but this was the top amount of cards sold. But it does have a bigger runway, too. It's the earliest released out of all these. I go on release date order. But again, huge amount of cards. Let's go over the top sales, the 5 top sales. So the first, actually, I'll go Let's go 5-1, I guess. So number 5 was 2011-12 Retro Future Watch Auto Patch of Cole Caulfield, serial numbered out of 25. That sold for $2,375 US. The fourth highest sale is a Future Watch Auto Patch of Cole Caulfield, serial numbered out of 100. You're going to see a trend for $2,550 US. Third highest sale, Upper Deck Young Guns Acetate number 201. Josh, can you take a guess who this player is?
Cole Caulfield.
Cole Caulfield, $2,609.51. And this one I found on ebay.ca. I don't know why I put that on these two, but anyways, just I guess from my own reference. Second highest sale is a Future Watch Auto Patch, Cole Caulfield, serial numbered out of 100, $3,249.01 US. And the top sale that I could find was a 2011-12 Retro Future Watch Auto Patch, Mason McTavish, serial numbered out of 50 for $4,500 US. I thought that was
a lot of money for a Mason McTavish
very interesting. Card. But what's this tell me? It tells me Cole Caulfield is the big chase, I guess, or he's got the top cards besides that Mason McTavish one, which I still can't really wrap my head around. But that's what we got.
It kind of makes sense, though, in a way that there's this many sales, given the biggest chase is the Future Watch Auto, and there's 1,000 copies of each. So if you're going to have a lot of volume around that, there's so many of the Future Watch Autos that maybe that supports that. But I'm still surprised almost 30,000 sales. That's great.
Yeah, lots of sales. So that was SP Authentic. Next one. Oh, boy, Josh. 2021-22 Leaf Art of Hockey. Maybe I should not have included it, but I guess since I bought a box, I was interested to see. Release date was May 19th of this year. Box pricing has actually dropped. From release day, it was $269.95 US. It is now at around $44.95 US. So a little drop there. Looking at total number of sales, eBay.com had 3,487. eBay.ca, I could find 26. I don't know if I'm an idiot or they just hate Leaf Art of Hockey in Canada, but that's all I could find. Again, maybe
they're smarter than we are.
They're smarter than we are, or my filtering might have got something out. But again, this is direction. It sounds right. I'm guessing that's probably where these are close, just in relation to the other ones, for a total of 3,513. Here's the interesting thing. We'll go the reverse. Okay, I'm going to start. I only did the top 4 because I got so stinking frustrated looking up Leaf cards because their numbering parallel system is ridiculous. If you look at their checklist, it will be like numbered out of 20 or less might be a red. So it might be out of 6, but it's actually a red. It's ridiculous. Go read their check.
You had that when you bought your box with your Timu Solani, where it was numbered out of like 6 or 7, but there wasn't anywhere on the checklist that
it's
showed.
Just like they guessed. They're just like, we're going to call it this. And some of them are out of 9 or less is purple. Out of 3 or less is something else is emerald.
It's fine. It's a red.
I got frustrated. So I'll start with the 4th highest card I could find for Leaf Art of Hockey. 8 Wonders of the World, Bronze Spectrum Holofoil Relics. This had a bunch of guys on it. So it's those cards with the little patches. Gordie Howe, Pele, Tom Brady, Muhammad Ali, Mickey Mantle, Larry Bird, Bruce Lee, Roger Federer out of 15. And this one, I believe, was a Navy parallel. And that sold for $316 US.
Okay, in theory, that's a really cool card. I'm not saying that this card, I've never seen it, but
it's basically their names and 8 windows. I get you. You hear about this card, you're like, that's cool. But then you look at it, it's like, okay, it's kind of weird.
What is the Bruce Lee memorabilia? Like his underwear or something like that?
Or his kimono or something. So it is interesting. And look at the 8 Wonders of the World. This is going to make our people that hate when non-hockey players are included, because the only hockey player you have on there is Howe.
Yeah.
3rd highest one, Museum of Materials, Bronze Spectrum Holofoil Relics out of 6. I wasn't really sure what parallel, but I said it looks Navy, so I'm going with it. This was a Bob Probert, which sold for $400 US.
So Bob Probert sells for more than Gordie Howe, Pele, Tom Brady, Muhammad Ali, Mickey Mantle, Larry Bird, Bruce Lee, and Roger Federer.
Yep, you better believe it. This actually is like I don't know. It almost looks like a jumbo patch kind of thing. The next 2 highest sales, or the second highest sales, another 8 Wonders of the World, Bronze Spectrum Holofoil Relics. This one's the Emerald parallel out of 3. This one's all hockey players. Pavel Bure, the Sedins, Trevor Linden, Naslin, Luongo, Bertuzzi, Alexander McGillney. I would argue maybe Bertuzzi doesn't fit in with that group. I don't know, but that one was $400. And the highest sale I could find, and again, there might be a higher one out there. This is maybe how my filter worked, but it's another 8 Wonders of the World, holofoil relics. This one's a red parallel out of 7. Again, same players, same card as number 2. This one sold for $422, and it was just a different parallel. So
I think here's all you need to know, though. A box of these cards was $270, and when the highest selling card is $422,
you're in trouble.
That's not good.
Nope, and
that's not good at all.
We've had this discussion in our Discord. They should be just embarrassed about the Manon Rion card. That art drawn card is such a ridiculous representation of her. It's silly, but
even your Temu, I think, is a little
you didn't
bit
like
off.
the Temu.
It's not as bad.
I'm not as bad. I wasn't as down on it, but I get where you're saying it's not 100% accurate. I'll tell you that much. All right, next set. We are going to look at 2022-23 Upper Deck Trilogy. Release date was May 25th, 2023. Box pricing has stayed at $129.95 US since release date to yesterday. Number of sales on eBay verified by Terapeak. Total, I'm just going to give this total instead of separating them out, 5,675. Again.
So that's roughly 3.5 weeks, right?
Yep, May 25th.
Something like that?
Yep. So we're coming up on 4 weeks probably.
5,600 sales? That's probably more than I thought that there was going to be.
I definitely, it stood out to me. I didn't think it would be that high, but it was. Top sales for this release, number 5 is a Matty Beniers 2005-06 Rookie Premier Tribute. Serial numbered out of 99 for $417. Fourth highest sale. Oh boy, Josh. Rupee, how do I say it?
Rope
Hints. Base auto purple parallel 1 out of 1. Sold for $499. Third highest card, Matty Beniers honorary triple swatches out of 25. Sold for $508.73 US. Second highest selling card, same exact card, sold for a different serial number. Obviously, this was 2 out of 25. Sold for $595. And the number one highest sale I could find is a Rookie Premier Black Ice Matty Beniers 101. Actually, that 101, don't quote me. Yeah, it is. It's black, so it's a 101. That sold for $979.09 US. So again, the Matty Beniers love is apparent. I'm actually
going to double down on my impressiveness or how impressed at 5,600 sales, given, as we know, I'm not a real big fan of the 2022 rookie class so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's not doing too bad.
No, and I actually, the pricing for a $129 box, I think is, it seems okay. It's one of those higher sales. So that's what we got for Trilogy. Next one, 2022-23 Upper Deck Extended Series, released on June 7th. Box pricing has stayed steady at $99.95 US. Number of sales on eBay verified by Terapeak, 10,770, which makes sense. Flagship release.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of people poo-pooed it, I think it's gaining traction. For our top sales, our fifth highest sale is a Upper Deck Extended Series base acetate Young Guns, number 470, Brant Clark. I know you and me talked about this one. $749.99 US.
Crazy.
Don't get it. The fourth highest sale, Uraj. I suck at names so bad. Slavkovsky. Rookie Young Guns acetate, $800 US. Third highest sale, Shane Wright. Acetate Young Guns, $1,000 US. We're seeing a trend. Second highest sale, Owen Power Acetate Young Guns, $1,000 US. And the highest sale so far I could find is Slavkovsky Young Guns Acetate for $1,100 US.
Whoever made that decision, probably Billy, I'm assuming, might have saved Extended Series with that.
Yeah. Just look at this. They did. It's crazy the love those cards are getting. And the sale and the number of sale or the dollar amounts these are going for.
Mm-hmm.
Agree 100%. Okay, I also looked at Fleer Ultra. Let's be honest. Oh, let me get to this. Release date, June 12th. It's on Upper Deck's e-pack site, $144.99. Now, this might be just an exercise in stupidity, but they do list these cards. You buy them on e-pack. You can put them on ComC. And then sometimes the ComC say you can probably have them go to eBay too. and you'll see like some will have ComC watermarks. So I can get eBay sales numbers, but I didn't go to ComC and go through the whole history token.
You have to pay for it.
Yeah, pay for the history tokens to figure it out. So this might be, I don't know what we'll call it. Maybe an exercise in stupidity, but we'll see. Total sales I could find at eBay for Fleer Ultra was 272 cards. But I think the highest ones are kind of interesting.
There might be a longer tail on this one because it's going to take getting the cards in hand, then posting them to eBay or whatever, selling service, and then getting the sales report. The whole ComC thing, too, I think is super weird, and we should maybe do a big deep dive episode on ComC at some point to get it. Because I actually like buying cards directly on ComC, but then just realized through you doing this that they never show up really on any sales report that way. And so who knows how many people, I'm assuming thousands a month are bought on ComC that really you don't get insight into how they factor into the hockey card market.
Agree 100%. So let's look at those top sales real quick. Fifth, I got an exclamation points Connor McDavid, sold for $81.90 US. Fourth highest sale, Ultra Team Jack Campbell, $114.39 US. Those Ultra Teams seem like they're getting some love, and I guess I didn't really understand them that much.
This goes back to how horrible the pictures are.
Yeah.
And how I really hope Upper Deck can work with ComC because, yes, they're the highest asks. I didn't look up the odds, but I think they're short print or super short print or something like that. But they don't look fantastic in the scans. But, yeah, I mean, people are spending a ton of money on them. So I would love to see one in person to see kind of what this card is all about and why people seem to be chasing it so much.
Agree. Third highest sale is a silver rainbow foil. Our boy, Marc-Andre Fleury, auto, $142.28 US. Second highest sale, Medallions Platinum, out of 100, Austin Matthews, for $186.28 US. And the highest one, again, this is just on eBay, not a lot of cards. Trevor Zegras, rookie Ultra Team, $575 US. And I know you did a post about that one on our Instagram. I think you've probably done a post on all the top ones, the number one sales that I've read.
Is this the part of the story, too, where you want to tell everyone how you bought a box of Fleer Ultra?
And
it
could bad.
And I don't say this with pleasure. I really don't because I feel bad for you. It might be the worst hobby box I've ever seen in my whole life.
It was rough. I think, what do we think? The best card I got was the Medallions Tavares. Was that a 200? Was it a gold? I think it was a gold. That might have been it. That was probably the best card. It was rough. It was really bad. Yeah. Turned me off from Fleer Ultra for a little bit until I get bored.
Saved you money.
Yeah, it does save you money.
That's like when you go to the casino with like $500 and you sit at a blackjack table and 13 minutes later you're broke and you're like, what the heck just happened here?
That was me. Because I remember I finally got down. I sat down finally. I'm like, all right, I'm going in. I got time. I can do this. I think I texted you. Like, I bought a box. You're like, send me the pictures. I'm like, I don't know. They're not very good. All right, last release, 21-22 Upper Deck Ice. Obviously released June 14th. Not a lot of data is going to be out there. Pricing of a box is $129.95 US. Hasn't changed. This one, I actually stopped trying to figure out how many sales there have been. Having the name Upper Deck Ice is horrible for searching. When it's a text-based search, it's just bad. It's even if you filter by trading card singles, category hockey, it still pulls in a bunch of stuff that just doesn't, it's not relevant.
Well, it's kind of like you can't ever look at like aggregate Series 1, Series 2 sales. Yeah. Because it just becomes 2021 Upper Deck.
So I did not do total sales numbers. And hey, I guess I'm lucky too that it's 4 days since release. So there's not, there'll not be a lot. I could find high sales though. So I
feel like people are digging it though.
Yeah.
And that's just from what I've seen on social media and stuff like that. We'll see.
So the fifth highest sale I could find was an Alex Ovechkin White Snowflake Auto, $225.86 US. Fourth highest sale, Trevor Zegras Exquisite Collection Rookie Signatures Auto, out of 99, $376.12 US. Third highest sale, Ice Premiers Dylan Cozens, serial numbered out of 99, $379 US. Second highest sale I can find is a Mo, our boy Mo Sider, 2009-10 Exquisite Rookie Autograph Gold, serial numbered out of 10 for $492 $1,004.70 US. And the top sale I could find was a Connor McDavid white snowflake auto. And I just put this in because I love the eBay titles. Case hit, 1 out of 60,970 packs, $601.08 US. Or sorry, $601.08 US. So those are the top.
That's crazy pack odds. 60,907.
And all those sales, tell me this isn't weird. All those sales I found on ebay.ca, all the top ones. I didn't find anything in the US, or maybe ebay.com was such a mess from Upper Deck Ice that I just couldn't find them. And I use Card Ladder too, but that's what I found. So someone will probably tell me I'm way off.
I just looked up that white snowflake auto. It's pretty cool. It's kind of got that speckled rainbow look to it, like a lot of the parallels do from Ice. But.
So I kind of wanted to do this, and I just did what I learned real quick about this. It was a complete exercise in frustration. Here's my first thing. People on eBay label their cards wrong all the time. It is incredible how wrong these these descriptions are, these cards in the title, or they just don't have the proper info. Because I was trying to match up. I wanted to make sure I had the right card. So I was going through checklists, matching the description, looking at the image. It's amazing how many were labeled wrong. They just weren't the right card. They had the wrong name.
You know what I've learned is, and this is kind of counterintuitive, but when you want to find the most data on a set, the least search terms you use, the better. Oh yeah,
I did that. I figured that out real quick. Like say extended, I would just do basically 2022-23 extended. And that was it.
Yeah.
And then,
well, like Ovechkin's a great example. I never use a first name because it's Alexander.
Yep.
So it's everything. It's like 2005 Ovechkin the cup out of 99.
Yeah.
Right. Because people will do RPA. They'll spell out rookie patch auto. And so any term that you add that could be substituted for another term by somebody else will screw up your search. Yep. So it's the least, it's like the most, like, what would they call that? The common denominator, something like that. The lowest common denominators is what you want to use.
Yeah. So that was what my first lesson I learned, or thing I learned. Second, take pictures of the back of your cards, people. When I'm trying to when I need a card number and you don't take a picture of the back of it, that doesn't help me. So personally and selfishly, take a picture of the back of your card.
I love it when people sell cards for like $3,000 and don't even take a picture. They take one picture
in the top loader.
Who buys those?
In the top loader, blurry. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Third thing I learned: I love unannounced cards, but I hate unannounced cards from a research perspective. It sucks because you can't look at the official Upper Deck checklist to try to figure out what it is. I will say that doing this work is an exercise in frustration, but I will say it is worth it from what you learn. I learned a lot. I'm actually glad I didn't even talk to you about like ways to do it. I kind of vented how I was frustrated, but we never talked about simpler ways because it actually forced me to learn stuff. And actually, but my fifth one is I have a whole new respect for the amount of work you do on all those Instagram posts where you look at total sales or Young Guns or any of that stuff. Your stuff's probably more in depth than this was. And I took 5 to 6 hours probably going through all this. And it was crazy. And then part of it was just I was learning too. So that's kind of the fun part.
There's no source of truth, and so that makes it hard. And as we've talked about ad nauseum, you have eBay has two different reporting systems that report data differently, which defies all. You're the data guy and data scientist. It's like rule one of it's more fundamental than the first rule of Fight Club.
Yeah,
it's like first rule of data is have a source of truth. For God's sake.
And I don't have like API access or anything, so I couldn't even do fun stuff with that. And then the final thing I said, just doing this, going over, looking at cards, looking at images. And the final thing I learned, or I guess it's more of a wish, I wish Upper Deck could figure out a way to scan the front and the back of all the cards. Even if it's just the serial number,
that would be nice.
Yeah, or the big ones. It would just it would help so much. It needs to happen at some point. The way this hobby is going, I'm gonna claim it has to happen at some point. And it's not like I'm saying scan every base card. You can just have the front and back image of what the base card could look like. But then on the patches,
I make an amendment to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with you, but just don't have ComC do it.
Yeah, those were rough. I wonder I don't know. Something happened, I think, but it has to happen at some point. I think we're going down this road where I think more people are actually getting on this train. And I know there's a cost and a time and all that stuff that adds up to a lot of money. That's probably why it's not done. I mean, we've kind of talked about it with Upper Deck. It's probably a cost thing. It would cost a lot of money, but it would be a fantastic resource. And at the end of the day, I think for the hobby to grow and move forward, I think that needs to be done, but we will see.
I think it'll happen when the customers and consumer demands it. And what I would say to support what you're asking for is, it wasn't for this exercise, but we were looking at something a week or so ago and comparing box prices to 2019 even.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like O-Pee-Chee Platinum, like $80 in 2019 or something like that. So in what now? Is that 3 year or 2 releases or whatever it's going to be? The box price has doubled. If you're going to want to be charging $300, $400, $500 for boxes, at some point, these are getting so expensive that I think consumers are going to demand.
I'm curious though, because they look at Fanatics and Topps. Does Topps do this? I have no clue.
Probably not.
I doubt it either. That's what we got.
Interesting look. And actually, what I got out of this is a little surprising that I think the two most relevant are probably Trilogy and SP Authentic because they've been out the most. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised how many secondary market sales there have been, especially for SP Authentic at almost 30,000. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I think the Young Guns assay, you're dead on, has saved or definitely helped a lot of like extended and kind of I think when it first was released, the checklist, I think it was pretty negative, the feedback. But I think from the unannounced stuff that's been in there and people opening, I think it's gaining a little traction.
They didn't announce the Young Guns acetate, so that might have been part of the problem. Then you have to think, okay, what's the viability of bringing back extended next year, which I assume has already been decided. But if you have acetates again in extended next year, and would they put if Bedard is going to be a canvas in Series 2, if I was the product manager, I think I'd put his canvas and extend it. Then people would be chasing extended all over the place.
True that.
Okay, going to switch over to new product releases really quick. We do want to mention that it's another huge release week. We just went through, over the last 6 weeks, all these sets that have come out, and we're scheduled to have O-Pee-Chee Platinum release on Wednesday, a very, very big product in the hockey hobby. I think you can make the argument it's the third, fourth, or fifth most important set in the hobby. You have Flagship Series 1 and 2, the Cup, SP Authentic, and then would you put anything else ahead of O-Pee-Chee Platinum after that?
Maybe from a personal standpoint, but not from a hobby relevancy. I think that's dead on. Oh, maybe, I don't know. Would Premier jump up? I don't know. I think O-Pee-Chee Platinum. I think so. O-Pee-Chee Platinum has grown enough to put it in that number 4 spot.
In the last year, there's been 11,000 platinum cards just on Card Ladder, which I don't think catches all of them. Terapeak would probably have a lot more that have sold. There's been 100 cards, more than 100 cards that have sold for $1,000 or more. So, and then you have the Seismic Golds, the Orange Checkers, Red Prisms, no Aquarium cards. What was that? Aquamarine or whatever it was.
Aquamarine, baby. Now we got Hot Magma.
That's one I didn't like.
That's your new favorite.
Hot Magma. That's coming out. So we'll be opening a box this Wednesday, and on Thursday we'll have our instant impressions there. But huge
Are you
pumping
up and getting ready for the disappointment of our autographs?
Oh, it's going to be brutal. It's 100 rookie checklist. I'm very negative in our, just because we don't typically hit big cards, but who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky. That would be awesome. And then looking at what's next, because hey, that's what we do. There's no additional checklists out yet, so it appears nothing is imminent. But if you go off the release calendars, the next two that are listed would be Credentials or Clear Cut. Those are both 2021 products. I'm really hoping for Credentials because I'm a really big fan of the debut ticket cards. They're autos that are really similar to the very popular Panini Contender rookie ticket autos. So that's what would be next. Big week, though, with Platinum finally coming out. Going to make a lot of people happy. All right, that's our show for Monday. If you like the episode, please leave a rating review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you listen to us on. If you love the show and you want to support us and join us on the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server, please consider a $5 a month donation. Join our out of 99 support level tier. There's 8 spots left on Patreon. You can go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, click on the Become a Patron link. Go to the Patreon website at patreon.com and search for Hockey Cards Gongshow. There's a link in the show description for whatever podcast app you listen to us on, or in our Instagram or TikTok profile. In our link tree, there's a link to our Patreon there. If you're not following us on social media, please do so. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And Troy, the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures, LLC. Have an awesome start to your week, and we'll talk to you again on Thursday.